brake or pick up speed.
How rescuers are trying to help an abandoned seal pup return to its ocean home.
The adults will, rather than risk their lives, they will abandon that pup.
Deer season begins in northern Michigan with a decline in the number of hunters.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. More rain is in the forecast for Southern California today after an atmospheric river drenched the region over the weekend. The rain started falling on Friday and didn't let up until yesterday. Some places got up to 5 inches of rain. On average, the LA area sees just 0.8 of an inch of rain in November. The storm led to street flooding as well as minor rock falls and debris flows. Thankfully, it wasn't as bad as feared, especially in communities plagued by burn scars from the January wildfires. Sadly, a father and daughter died in Northern California. The 7-year-old girl was swept into the ocean by a 15 to 20-foot wave in Carmel. Her father died trying to save her. 3 people are dead in Europe after a massive storm struck both Portugal and the United Kingdom. Storm Claudia brought record flooding to Wales, where dozens of people were rescued from their homes. Nearly 5 inches of rain fell here, as well as in parts of England and also Ireland. It was accompanied by high winds that took down some trees. In Portugal, an 85-year-old woman died when a tornado hit a campsite. 28 others were injured as well. A couple was also killed in a flood in Lisbon. It's early summer in many parts of the country as a heat wave moves across the south. Dozens of cities broke records on Sunday, and the warm-up is going to continue through at least Wednesday. For example, Dallas is expecting a high of 85 today and will stay in the 80s for several days. And a similar story we're also seeing in Austin, where temps should hit around 88 degrees today as well. Oklahoma City is looking at a high of 83 degrees today, and it will be 79 in New Orleans, with 80s expected tomorrow through Thursday. But in other parts of the country, winter is actually here. This is the town of Warren in northern Pennsylvania. A lake effect snow warning is posted for this region through this afternoon, with up to 8 inches possible. Snow is also in the forecast for parts of New York State, Vermont, and even northern Maine. Meantime, heavy snow is expected in the California mountains, with as much as 2 feet falling at the highest elevations, including here, not far from Lake Tahoe. And turning to southern New England now, where it's the season for more nor'easters, which are among the most impactful storms to hit the region. Meteorologist A.J. Mastrangelo explains how these storms are classified by type and also impact.
First, what a nor'easter is. Essentially a coastal storm with potent northeast winds, typically the strongest wind direction. However, not always. There will always be some component of that northeast wind direction. Now, the Miller classification itself, it was actually developed back in 1946 by a researcher, J.E. Miller. However, things have changed since 1946. Miller type A, most common, type B, less common, but there's actually been later research which added 3 more of these variations. So now it goes further down through the alphabet. Of course, the further and further we learn and get knowledgeable about meteorology, the more things we can kind of classify things as. Differing types, of course, affect different regions and can bring different types of precipitation. Let's first talk about Miller type A. This is the most common, and we typically have a high pressure in place across the eastern Great Lakes. We have a stationary boundary just off the eastern coast of the United States, the southeast. This low pressure looks to develop and rides up the coastline, and depending on the track, of course, further east, we see more snow across our southern New England. However, typically some component of mixing, especially when these low pressure systems head right towards the benchmark and get closer and closer there to the coast itself. Now, a Miller type B storm, a little bit of a different scenario. We have this low pressure system developing over the Midwestern plains as it pushes further and further eastward and encounters the Appalachian Mountains. And what this does, you got to think about it. The mountains being tall, they essentially kind of shield the low pressure system. However, it still makes it through. Once that low hits the water, it essentially kind of increases in stature and intensity, then riding up the coastline. This can bring more in the way of some snow out towards the plains, while that Miller type A storm can actually bring more wintry weather for the southeastern United States.
Well, just like there are different types of nor'easters, there are different types of snow as well. Meteorologist Eric Kostriva tells us about some of them and their shapes.
Well, how can some of this snow stack up a little bit better than others? Well, it has to do with snow types, and the snow types come from the actual temperatures. So we have thin plates, needles, hollow columns, stellar plates, and dendrites. Dendrites are usually the snowfall that stacks up a little bit better because it allows for even some more air involved in some of those snowfall totals. The thin plates happen between 25 and 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Needles, it's a little bit cooler, 21 to 25 degrees, and it can even get colder than that, but we'll swing back around to some of those even colder temperatures. Hollow columns, 14 to 21 degrees. Stellar plates are 10 degrees to 14 degrees, and dendrites 3 degrees to 10 degrees. And of course, this is Fahrenheit. You can get back into the stellar plates when it gets even colder than that, -8 to 3 degrees, and then the hollow columns below -8. That's why when it is cold enough and you have that seriously cold weather, you can see some of those individual columns falling from the sky. It's a very light snow. It's the flurries that happens even when the sunshine is out. Those are the snowfall types that you would get in that situation.
Autumn leaves can look pretty when on trees or even after just falling to the ground, but they can become problematic and outright dangerous when trains crush them along the tracks. Meteorologist Nick Russo explains.
Early November is the peak of slippery rail season in southern New England. Leaves fall on tracks, trains crush them and create a slippery substance. As a result, trains lose traction and take more time to brake or pick up speed. Train wheels can even get damaged.
Steel wheels, when they're not turning and going down the track, they become they go from round wheels to square wheels. So we end up with flat spots, and that's a lot of maintenance to get those flat spots out. And in some cases, we have to replace the entire wheel set.
For years, the MBTA relied on wash trains to clean tracks. Those trains are slow, moving at just 10 to 15 miles per hour and only used at night.
It took a lot of resources, locomotives, people, and time. Plus, you're dragging around a 30,000-gallon tanker of water, which has to be refilled.
In 2025, for the first time in southeastern Massachusetts, a new tool cleans the tracks faster than ever. A laser train blasts the slippery substance off the tracks. It travels up to 60 miles per hour and can be used during the day.
And that train, while it's cleaning the railhead, doesn't impact our revenue service schedule. And that's really the biggest advantage of operating the laser train, is we could do that during the day. We can do it 24 hours a day and not impact our regular scheduled services.
Now a heartwarming story about a seal pup abandoned by its mom and the mammal's road back to health and also independence. Joel Marino reports.
This seal pup was found severely underweight and with no mother to care for her. She was spotted on a stretch of beach in Tokeland, and precautions were taken before she was approached.
They monitored her to make sure that mom wasn't coming back.
She's about 2 weeks old and has been recovering at the Sea Life Response, Rehabilitation, and Research Facility in Des Moines, where she is fed 4 to 5 meals a day.
Cold water, because we don't want to cook her fish, because, you know, they don't have ovens out in the ocean.
For each feeding, the team at SR3 carries a seal pup to a pool. In the process, the animal calls out to a mother that is long since gone. Pups are sometimes abandoned when these marine mammals haul out along a beach to rest, but people or pets get too close and frighten the mothers away.
They don't want to be anywhere near people. We're a threat to them, so the adults will, rather than risk their lives, they will abandon that pup.
SR3 staff keep their own contact to a minimum because once this seal is healthy enough, she'll be returned to the wild. They don't want her to think it will be okay to approach humans in the future.
She'll learn how to eat fish on her own, how to hunt the fish. We'll set up some different challenges for her. It really becomes our responsibility as the people that are impacting them to give them that second chance to be wild.
And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how areas on the East Coast are preparing for the upcoming winter months, and we'll help you better understand radiation fog.
I'm meteorologist Ryan Munn. Let's get a look at the Northeast. We head through the day on Monday. Most of us are looking at partly to at times mostly cloudy skies, but you notice some of that upslope snow in some of the mountains, some of the higher elevations are going to see a good amount of snowfall for the day on Monday. Areas up towards northern Vermont, New Hampshire, over towards parts of New York as well. Otherwise, most of us is just going to deal with a very stiff northwest wind for the day on Monday. High temperatures topping out in the 30s for most 40s closer to the coast.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Bailey. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. We'll be pretty quiet to begin the work week. We'll see a decent amount of sunshine to start. Temperatures will still be on the cool side. A next storm system is on the way as we make our way into late Monday night into Tuesday. We'll see showers becoming likely across much of the region. As we get a little bit further north towards Pennsylvania and into the mountains, we could see that as a mixture of some snow and other freezing precipitation. But temperatures, again, pretty chilly. We'll be in the 40s on Monday. We'll be just a little bit warmer on Tuesday.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs. We're seeing nice, comfortable, mild temperatures from Raleigh at 61 degrees, 68 in Atlanta, 64 in Nashville, 74 in Pensacola, 83 in Tampa, 74 in Jacksonville. So it looks like we're seeing sun and clouds across the southeast. We do have a few high, thin clouds across the Mississippi River Valley, but staying dry for the most part. Memphis may get a few clouds up towards northern mountains of Tennessee, maybe a sprinkle, but plenty of sun across the southeast.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
A look at some beautiful cirrus clouds over part of Tennessee. Cirrus clouds are among the 10 main cloud types and are made of ice crystals. And in Syracuse, one eagle takes off, maybe going after a bite to eat, while the other one stays put. And these photos here capture the peaceful-looking aftermath of a recent rainstorm in Seattle.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Instagram.
Winter is right around the corner, and cities all over the country are getting ready. Meteorologist Jasmine Lomax finds out what officials in Maryland are doing now to make sure they are prepared before the winter weather arrives.
Work to keep our roads safe begins long before the first snowflake touches the ground. I spoke with Charlie Gishler from the State Highway Administration on the critical role his office plays to make our roads safe when winter weather strikes.
We maintain the state-numbered, non-tolled highways. Our role is to make sure we continue to make sure the pavement is safe and passable, you know, for our first responders and for people who do have to go out.
But the State Highway Administration also acts before winter weather begins.
What we generally do before a storm, we have a contractor meteorologist, and they track the storms. And then we have a pre-storm meeting with all the decision makers, all the maintenance folks, everybody involved in the storm itself. And we get on the same page, and the technology with forecasting weather, you know, with timing charts and that type of thing, we're able to smart deploy crews to areas.
The steps they take to treat roads depend on the type of winter weather expected. For example, with snowstorms, they use a salt brine solution.
So it's sprayed on the highways in the days before the storm. We can go up to 2 or 3 days. And it's allowed to drive, and it creates a thin film of salt on the road. So when the precipitation does begin, it turns it into like a slushy solution so that our crews can get out there, and it's easier to move than any kind of just a hard snowpack.
The process gets a little more complicated when freezing rain and mixed precipitation events happen.
The salt brine is only good to about 20 degrees, maybe a little bit cooler, but not much, because then it will just freeze on the highway. So we have to introduce something. We might have to spray it with liquid magnesium, or mix it with liquid magnesium, and that helps lower the freezing point so that we are able to get down to some of the sub-zero temperatures.
And now, they're also implementing new technology to determine road conditions around the state.
We have roadside sensors all across the state on the roads that we maintain that are infrared. on our weather stations. So we're able to tell relative humidity, dew point, possible freezing points.
One type of winter weather we could see in the next few months are snow squalls. Let's turn to meteorologist John Gum to take a deep dive into what snow squalls are, how they form, and what makes them so dangerous.
And these are so dangerous that the National Weather Service issues warnings on these, just like they issue warnings on severe thunderstorms and tornadoes. So what is a snow squall? Well, one of the keys to snow squalls is the fact that they happen quickly. They have a sudden onset. And as they happen, they could produce whiteout conditions where you can't see your hand in front of your face in some of these more intense snow squalls. Obviously, if you're traveling, particularly at interstate speeds, this can be a major problem because these sudden bursts of snow and wind, they produce not only whiteout conditions, but they quickly make the roads turn bad, really slick. So think about it. You're traveling along, all is fine, and then suddenly you can't see anything and the roads are covered in snow. And that is a major problem. Oftentimes on interstates, these things will produce multi-car pileups. That is why they're so incredibly dangerous. And just as quick as they come, they go away just as fast. And then the sun pops out again and everything seems like it's okay. But if you encounter these, you got to be very careful on the roads. If you come across a snow squall, reduce your speed. Whatever you do, though, don't slam on the brakes because everything is slick. So you got to be careful. Make sure that your headlights are on, perhaps even your hazard lights as the visibility goes down. And if you can't continue, if it seems too dangerous, find a safe spot to pull over, but not on the road. You got to get off of the road. If you're on an interstate, the best thing to do is exit the interstate as soon as you can.
Well, this weekend marked the start of firearm deer hunting season in Wisconsin. Officials are keeping tabs on the number of hunters heading out this season. The reason? The state and the county have seen a decline in deer hunting. Kyle Macon has more.
Last year, we had over 600,000 licensed deer hunters in the state of Michigan. We took about 370,000 deer.
Brent Rudolph is a deer, elk, and moose management specialist with the Michigan DNR. He says firearm season sees the most amount of hunters in our woods and accounts for nearly half of all the deer taken for the entire year.
Can help address things like abundant deer being a problem to motorists on our roads and farmers in the fields growing crops.
If you're buying a license,
take a look at and realize on that combo tag, if you haven't, there's a restricted tag that is on in anywhere in the state. That restricted tag is for a buck with 4 or more points on a side.
If you shoot a deer with less than 4 points on one side, you could face severe penalties. Brent says if you haven't bought a deer tag yet, do not buy it online, as those will take time to mail out and you won't be ready for opening day. Also, chronic wasting and other diseases are still an issue, and the DNR will be out in some counties conducting testing.
If you're not taking a deer from one of those targeted surveillance counties, you can still get a free test kit if you'd like your deer tested for CWD.
If you successfully get a deer, you must report your harvest to the DNR online within 72 hours.
Helps us be able to track what the ultimate harvest is as the outcome of each of these individual seasons through the year.
The Michigan DNR is also offering some safety tips. It is a requirement to wear hunter's orange, always act as if your gun is loaded at all times, and to make sure to tell someone where you'll be hunting in the case of an emergency. And also, good luck and happy hunting.
Ohio meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael loves answering viewer questions. He does it every week on Facebook. He calls it the Weather Bucket. Let's take a look at what questions he's answering this week.
What is up, everyone? Andrew Buckmichael back with another round of your Weather Bucket questions. We've got a lot of them here, so pin to the top of my Facebook page. You can find this post and leave your question. This one from Patrick. Hi, Buck. My grandson asks, why is there so much wind? Is the Earth spinning around faster? How fast is the Earth spinning anyway? I explained it's spinning at about 1,000 miles per hour. He asked, is it spinning faster? Told him I wasn't sure, and I asked Buck. First of all, the Earth is spinning pretty constantly, slightly slower every single year. But if you're inside of a car, just like we're inside of the Earth's atmosphere, you don't feel that spin at 1,000 miles per hour. What we do feel winds from, two main things. First of all, you get a storm. When that wind blows out of that storm, that energy kicking out of it, sometimes you get that big gust of wind. However, most of the time it's caused by high pressure and low pressure. High pressure is sinking air. Low pressure is rising air. So what happens at the surface? As that air sinks, it has to go somewhere, and it wants to get rid of the wind here. So you get that wind to kind of move along at the surface down here for us. Now, the stronger the low pressure system, kind of like a hurricane, the stronger the winds that will be funneling across us before it gets lifted into those thunderstorms. Hopefully that answers this for your grandson there, Patrick. By the way, leave more questions and we'll answer them next time with the Weather Bucket.
And time now for a short break, but first we soar above the Truckee River and the Sierra Nevada mountains.
Good Monday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Mike. We've got a little bit of scattered light rain across the Midwest for the day today. Not widespread or heavy by any means, but we are dealing with temperatures in the 50s and 40s for a lot of the Midwest. That rain does amplify a little bit more, including a little wintry mix there on the northern edge tomorrow near the Great Lakes. That moves into the Ohio Valley, and then most of the Midwest dry on Wednesday with cool temps.
Good Monday morning. I'm meteorologist Joe DiCarlo. Look at your forecast across the region. We'll start with some patchy clouds, maybe a little fog in parts of the region this morning, and then mostly sunny skies, warm temperatures, 70s and 80s for that afternoon high on your Monday. And Tuesday, we'll start mild again. A few maybe sprinkles across central Texas with the clouds, and then more sunshine as we head into the afternoon, staying warm. Temperatures mainly in the 80s, 60s to the north.
Hey, good Monday morning, everybody. I'm meteorologist Stella Sun. Another storm system will be pushing its way in towards California. That's going to trigger some winter weather advisories towards the Sierra Mountains as well as the foothills. We'll be seeing the potential for some flooding concerns. Daytime highs will be staying cool in San Francisco, only climbing to about 58 degrees, the low 60s in Los Angeles, with sunshine in Phoenix and in Albuquerque, and in Missoula, 51. That's the scene from here.
I'm Michael Crowley, meteorologist at CBS Austin News in Austin, Texas. You're watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, have you ever heard of radiation fog? It's common this time of year. Meteorologist Rhonda Shelby tells us what it is.
Ever wonder how you can go to bed with clear skies and wake up to something like this the next morning? Well, this is called radiation fog, and here's how it forms. It begins with a clear night. As the ground cools, heat escapes back into the atmosphere. Then a thin layer of moisture forms underneath the drier air, and that rising air continues to move up through that layer. Then that moist layer cannot absorb much heat, so it cools really quickly near the ground. The moist layer cools down to the dew point, turns to water, then water vapor, and then fog finally forms. Across the nation, the Pacific Northwest, the Appalachian region, and parts of New England experience, on average, the most days with dense fog per year. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Rhonda Shelby.
And we'd love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great day, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow. I just don't know how...